Their top end talent has gotten so good. And then you're adding in, youngsters like Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, and you're bringing in newer talent and mixing in with the vets, the guys who have been on TV for, 5 or 10 years now. Their roster is solid right now. I mean, their top end, any number of 10 guys could have the world heavyweight title on them and you wouldn't bat an eye.
Yep.
And to me, that's a strong roster when you can just name one of the top guys and go, yep, I can see him as world champ. And it doesn't sit at a place. It's better than it has been and deeper in terms of talent than it has been in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
Because for the last 10 years, it was Cena, Orton, Roman, Seth,
Brock.
And Brock was in and out. So
Yep.
he wasn't even a full-time player. Now Roman is the only part-timer and everyone else is full-time, always here, always on TV, always involved in stuff. That's a depth of a roster that they have not had since, probably since Attitude, with that number of guys who could be in the top spot.
Do you see any holes up top for the WWE currently?
I see holes with I like Penta. Penta seems out of place a couple times. I know, for example, Saudi Arabia, when he came down in the main event in the SMAs, it was kind of like one of these things don't belong here. One of these things aren't the same. It didn't. When Sammy came out, it was like, oh, Sammy. When Penta came out, it was like more like, huh? Okay, he's here. But it wasn't immediate, like, go get him, Penta.
Yeah.
I don't think Penta has grown into that spot yet.
Yeah, did you find it odd that he just kind of walked down
Yes,
the aisle?
I hate when it's a situation where babyfaces are getting beat on and you want to do your cool swagger to the ring. There's a time and place for that. If your best friend was getting beat up in a park and you got out of the car, would you slowly saunter over to him or would you sprint your ass off to him? And that's what you should do in that situation is sprint your ass off, not, wait for the spot to wait for Bronson to come up the ramp. So, it just felt out of place. And then him making that walk made it even highlighted how out of place it was.
One of the biggest pet peeves I've had with wrestling in the last 5 years, and I'm going to say it from a creative standpoint, is that the necessity to hit the music for the pop. I firmly believe this. The presence of someone compared to their music, and I'm not talking about The Rock or John Cena's music or anything like that, but the presence of someone running down an aisle compared to the music, the heels turn around all confused. I don't understand this importance on hitting music. Where do you land on that?
I'm not a big fan of always hitting your music to a run-in because all that tells me is the babyface is sitting there waiting for the right time to go. Hey, music guy, get ready. Okay, go now. That's what it's always felt that way to me.
Yeah.
Before I was in wrestling, it's like, why did you need to wait for your music? Why couldn't you just run? You had to wait till the moment to run in. It highlights the fact that we're waiting for the opportunity to give the biggest situation, as opposed to if you just run down, it feels more organic. It feels like you were sitting in a locker room and, oh man, look what's going on. You're watching a monitor.
I gotta go.
Let me get out there and help.
Yep.
I shouldn't have time to go to the music guy and go, cue up my song.
It's a hard balance because we have WWE Untold coming soon on Netflix, and it's going to show a lot of the backstage stuff. And they are going to promote it, and there are going to be moments where we're talking about, this was the creative shift, and this is what we're doing. And then they talk about, guys are in gorilla waiting to go out there. And at the same time, it's, here's the music hit, and here's this cue. It makes it tough sometimes to balance entertainment when you're telling people, oh, we all know, but is it? And at the same time, yeah, but here's the magic. It's tough. And having these conversations makes it tough for people sometimes to have that suspension of disbelief. It's difficult to manage this if you tell people this is real, but this is fake, by the way. It's that attitude era continuance that I feel people have an issue with sometimes.
Yeah, and to me, I agree. And the music cue, they're essential and they're needed, But sometimes when it's done just for the sake of doing it, it takes you out of the moment.
Yeah.
And to me, the moment is I'm trying to suspend your disbelief. And that just reinforces your disbelief when the music cue is right on time at the exact moment you have to run in. So some dude sitting in a truck out back knows the exact moment. It
Yep.
just does, it takes you out of the moment to me. And we can go back to a time in wrestling before there was music and guys do run-ins.
Yep.
And maybe it took the crowd an extra second to ID them, but when they ID'd them running down, the crowd went crazy. And it felt more organic.
Yeah. I think one of the moments that I can point to that makes the most sense was WrestleMania 40 with The Rock. You had The Undertaker coming out, Seth Rollins with the Shield. The music meant something because it took their mind off of what was happening. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna sound terrible to say this, but sometimes the mid-card music that gets hit, I don't know who it is. It really has no effect. I don't know Penta's music. I watch. I don't know Penta's music. That music hit, and if it wasn't for his mask that came up on the screen, I really didn't know who was coming out. There was no brand equity in that yet. There's nothing that's built up over years and years, and I think that gets lost sometimes in how do we strategically plan this stuff.
And there's this, and it's a fine sword where we're talking about here because it's splitting hairs, because there is something iconic about heels are beating on a baby face and they're pounding him into the corner, and all of a sudden you hear the glass break and the heel does this and out comes Steve Austin.
Yep.
But that music is so iconic that the music means as much as the talent running to the ring.
Yep.
The gong of the Undertaker at the right moment. It's almost like the eerie heel, stop what you're doing because this is about to happen. It's a very thin line. And yes, music doesn't have the same, and I can all go back to attitude. Every music meant as much to the talent, and every music had its own story, whether it was the glass breaking or the gong or if you smell or are you ready?
Yep.
Yes. I mean, like, those musics by themselves told the story because they were associated completely and individualized to that person. The music, when it became so generic, I remember watching Mania 2 years ago, and when you're in a big arena, the music would hit and people sat for 45 seconds before they could see who was walking out. And then there was the cheer or the boo.
The Rumble was like that too. This year,
Yes.
especially the Rumble, and the music would hit, and everyone would be like,
And I'm a firm believer you should know who's coming to the ring within 3 chords of that music.
Yep.
You should know, and it's all, then the anticipation builds. That's when music is good for a hit. That's when good music is good for a run-in, because the music is just as good as the talent. When you have generic music, it doesn't do the same thing.